What's up guys, welcome back to the channel, and on today's video we are going to be exploring the latest banger from Topo. And this is actually their most popular trainer ever, but they haven't just left it as it is. No, at least in my opinion, they have made this version the best yet. Guys, this is my review of the Topo Phantom 4. Let's get into it. Before we get started, I do just want to say that this video is in collaboration with my friends over at Roadrunner Sports. Now, the Topo Phantom 4 was sent to me for the purpose of review. However, no one at Roadrunner Sports has told me what to say. They don't have any editorial privileges, and all the thoughts and opinions are my own. With that said, you're going to be able to pick up a pair of the Topo Athletic Phantom 4 from Roadrunner Sports for $145. And of course, I'll place a link in the show notes below in case you want to pick up a pair for yourself. So right off the bat, I have teased that Topo has made some big changes to the Phantom this year. And yes, the Phantom 3 was their best-selling shoe. It beat all their other models, both road and on the trail. And I think that the changes that they've made to the Phantom 4 are going to make this, again, the best-selling shoe. So let's get started with that stack height, because the Phantom 4 now has 35 in the heel, 30 in the forefoot for a 5mm drop. Now, Topo has added an additional 2 layers of stack height to the Phantom 4 over the Phantom 3. So we've got even more cushioning underneath your foot. But the story doesn't end there. But we'll get to that in the midsole and ride section. Now, Topo claims that a US mid-size 9 will tip the scale at 9.3 ounces or 264 grams. However, in my size, a US mid-size 13, the Phantom 4 tips the scale at 11.4 ounces or 324 grams. So as far as weight goes, we're definitely in the right ballpark. And that only becomes more apparent when we look at the competition. So if you are thinking of picking up a pair of the Topo Phantom 4, you may also be thinking about some other mid-range daily trainers. And you're probably considering the Hoka Clifton 10. Now the Clifton 10 has a little more stack height. We have 42 in the heel, 34 in the forefoot for an 8mm drop. The Clifton 10 will cost $150 and in my size weighs in at 333 grams. So the Clifton 10 is 9 grams heavier than my size in the Phantom 4. Next up, you might be shopping for the Brooks Ghost 17. Now the Brooks Ghost 17 has 36.26 for a 10mm drop. It'll cost you $140, so $5 less than the Phantom 4. But in my size tips the scale at 347 grams. So it's 23 grams heavier than my size in the Phantom 4. Next up, I think a good comparable is the New Balance 880 version 15. The 880 has 40.34 for a 6mm drop. It'll cost you $140, so again, $5 less than the Phantom 4. But it tips the scale at 348 grams in my size. So it's 24 grams heavier than my size in the Phantom 4. Finally, I think we also need to compare it to the Ultra Tauren 8. Now the Tauren 8 is a zero drop shoe. We have a 30mm stack. It'll cost $150 and in my size tips the scale at 333 grams. So same as the Clifton 10, it is 9 grams heavier than my size in the Phantom 4. And even though the Tauren 8 is a zero drop shoe, the Phantom 4 is still considered a low drop shoe at a 5mm drop. But really, it's the toe box that I want to compare it to, because both the Phantom 4 and the Tauren 8 have anatomically shaped toe boxes. And this makes a huge difference when it comes to comfort on the run. But that's it for comparables. Let's start at the top and work our way down. If I hold this up, you can see this heel collar, and I love this heel collar because Topo has really nailed their heel collar cushioning and got it right in the Goldilocks zone. Now, a lot of times, especially in some of those competitors, companies tend to really overdo this heel collar cushioning, which just adds to the weight. Topo, for lack of a better term, has a medium level of cushioning, and it's biased to the top of the heel collar. So when you put your foot in, the heel collar is kind of wrapping around that heel, giving you a nice secure feeling. It works well. If we come to the heel counter, Topo is using a semi-rigid heel counter, and you know what, I almost want to call it rigid, but it's not like rock solid rigid, but it's definitely on the firm side. I guess what I really need to get across is that you're not going to have any heel slip like you would in a shoe with a heel collar that's like loosey-goosey. This has really given me a good heel lockdown and I didn't experience any heel slip. Of course, if you did, you also have that extra lace loop right at the top of the eyelet chain in case you wanted to do the lace lock method, so it's there if you need it. For the upper, Topo is using an engineered mesh, and of course we have that very understated Topo styling that I'm definitely here for. The upper seems fairly breathable, although you know I've been testing this shoe before it got really hot here in Florida for summer, but there is nothing about this upper that makes me think it's going to be a hot ride when the temperature starts to climb. I mean, don't get me wrong, it's not going to be that super see-through mesh breathability that some race shoes have, but it's definitely not a heavy and thick upper. I think it's going to work well. For the tongue, Topo is kind of doing what they do with their medium in thickness, and we have a medium in thickness tongue, which in a daily trainer, in a mid-range daily trainer, again, I am just totally here for, because I really don't like those super plush tongues. I don't know what to do with it. I feel like I'm squashing it into the top of my foot. Of course, it's comfortable. It's just too much. That hasn't been the case with the tongue on the Phantom 4. It's just a nice middle ground, you know? Now, the tongue is not gusseted, but we do have those dual lace loops right on the tongue. And because of that, or not because of that, I didn't have any tongue migration. In fact, on most shoes, I found that, you know, whether a tongue is gusseted or not, whether it has a lace loop or not, if I have a good lockdown across the top of my foot, I'm really not getting any tongue migration. But Perhaps if your foot is shaped slightly differently, maybe you will. So these lace loops are going to help you if you need it. The laces are just laces. I don't think there's anything special about them. But what I will say is that they didn't come untied. Not once. And as I always say, that is all I want out of a pair of laces. If we come to the insole, Topo is using a Ortholite Performance insole. Now, that's their words, not mine. I think using the word performance with an insole, I don't know, it's a bit of a stretch. But what I will say is that it's very soft and it feels good when you put your foot in, and like my laces, that's all I really want out of a midsole. It really just adds to the overall stepping comfort. So you can tell that we're working our way down, and finally we have come to the midsole. Now the Phantom 4 is using zip foam, and if you have run in Topo shoes before, you have probably heard of zip foam. And Topo isn't alone in this, but they call like most of their foams zip foam, right? That's their base. But all zip foams are not created equal. So if you have run in a Topo shoe, perhaps years ago when they were a little firmer, you can't judge that zip foam by the zip foams that we're seeing today. Because in the Phantom 4, Topo has tweaked the zip foam and they've made it a little softer. And because they've made it a little softer, for me at least, it has changed the ride completely. And it has changed the ride completely in a good way, for me at least. Because I tend to like a softer ride, especially in my daily trainers. You know, those shoes that you grab every day to just go out and knock out those bread and butter miles. Now, I don't want you thinking that they have gone and ruined the zip foam and made it just so super soft that it just zaps your energy and it's like a sponge, you know, just soaking in all your work. It's not that at all. But they have tweaked it so slightly that, again, like the heel collar, like the tongue, just sits right in that Goldilocks zone, and it just makes for a very enjoyable and comfortable running experience. Now, if we come down to the outsole, you're going to see, yeah, we got a good amount of outsole rubber here. Good coverage up on the forefoot and a lot of rubber here on the heel where it matters. Of course, we got some exposed midsole, and that's probably just keeping the weight down. Now, if I look at the wear up on my forefoot, I gotta say I'm not seeing any wear whatsoever. And if I look at my lateral heel, which is where I usually see the most amount of wear, I mean, I'm seeing evidence that I have run in it, but it's not nearly as bad as some other shoes that I've been running in where the outsole rubber just seems to melt away. Because of that, because of my testing miles that I've put into the Phantom 4, and just the amount of rubber here seems quite thick, I'm going to say that the Phantom 4 is going to last above average as far as durability goes. Also, and I don't usually bring this up on my reviews, but the outsole rubber does come all the way to the edge of the midsole. In a couple of my recent reviews, this strip of outsole rubber here on the lateral edge is inset just a little bit. So when I land on that lateral heel, it's almost like I'm landing on midsole first. That's not going to be a problem if you heel strike in the Phantom 4 because that rubber does come all the way to the edge and it's very resilient. So yeah, I'm happy with the amount of wear I'm seeing on this shoe. So let's talk about the ride. In fact, well, let's talk a little more about the ride because I already mentioned that it's a nice, soft and comfortable ride. Now, I do have to tell you that this is it's a mid-range daily trainer, right? It's not made to blow your doors off. I don't think anyone would use the word exciting to describe the Phantom 4, but then that's not a negative thing. And I certainly wouldn't use the word exciting to describe any of the comparables that I've compared it to. Like on the whole, I just don't find daily trainers to be very exciting. But as I say, that is a good thing. We are not looking for excitement every time we go out for a run. We are looking to put in the work, get those miles, stay injury free, and most importantly, be comfortable while we're doing it. And this is where the Phantom 4 really shines for me. Now, of course, I am a Topo fan. I've run in a lot of Topo shoes and I really love the anatomical toe box. And if you haven't run in a shoe with an anatomical toe box, I am telling you, you are in for a treat. Your feet have just never known such comfort. Like most running shoes are very tapered at the front. And even if you don't feel your toes kind of pressing against the upper, I think it's one of those things that like you don't know what you've got until you don't have it anymore. So on the regular running shoes, when I've got that tight fit, like I might not notice it when I'm running in them, but I certainly notice it when I put my foot into a pair of Topo shoes, and specifically the Phantom 4, and I have that extra room in my toe box. It's just so comfortable. And for me, of course, that just isn't enough. Like the shoe comes as a whole package. There are lots of variables that make a good shoe. And the reason I think that the Phantom 4 is going to be a banger, or is a banger in my opinion, is because of this tweaked zip foam, right? They've always had this anatomical toe box. That's not news. If you've bought Topo in the past, I'm sure you like it. I'm sure you would buy another pair for that same reason. But now with that just slightly softer midsole foam, yeah, I think Topo has a good recipe on their hands. And I hope they use this recipe of zip foam moving forward. Unless they want to tweak it and make it just a little more responsive or a little lighter, but don't go any firmer. I like this as it is. Now, if you were looking for a daily trainer, but you also wanted something to pick up the pace and you love the anatomical toe box, you should probably also check out the Topo Cyclone 3 or the Spectre 2. Now, both of these shoes have 100% Pebax midsole foam, and they give you a little more excitement, if you know what I'm saying. But now I want to hear from you. Have you run in any of the last 3 Phantoms? Are you thinking of picking up a pair of the Topo Phantom 4? Drop a comment and let me know. But for now, it's Matt B. This has been my review of Topo's Phantom 4. Be kind of you, happy, run well. See you in a couple of days.